why do you reckon it is men actually feel insecure? Welcome back to The Mailman. My name's Punith. This is the brand focused on breaking the stigma around male body image issues and the mental health impact it can have on males of all ages. So why is it that men actually feel insecure? I mean, if you've been watching all the other videos, you can probably tell what my insecurities are and where they've come from. But if you're new, well, for me, it's been from a young age. Comparing myself to others, other kids, other friends of mine. They might be in better shape, they might have a bit more status. They got the girls, they did well in school, they come from money, they had all the latest gadgets or clothing. And when you're young, especially, you know, my insecurity started by, you know, bullying and being made to feel different because of the way I looked, my colour, my size. That becomes almost like a seed in your mind, because then you just can't help but compare yourself to everyone, literally everyone you walk past or you interact with. There's always an element of, am I better than them? Are they better than me? They're more attractive as an individual to other people. They've got, you know, more friends. And I think as you go on in life, that just stays. Like, I find myself doing that every day. Sometimes I, you know, compare myself to myself by just looking in the mirror. And remembering, you know, when I did end up losing loads of weight by going on crash diets and taking pills and being a bit of a gym addict. Yeah, I look better, but I had to go to some real extremes to do that. I can't help sometimes just comparing myself to how I looked back then. But more often than not, it's to do with people that you walk past or you know, interact with or you see, and you just think they are just a better person than me because of the way they look, the way they come across. And a lot of that is actually to just do with the confidence that they have. And yeah, you know, confidence is not something that you can just turn on or turn off. Like some people are just naturally more confident. And funnily enough, some people who may not have the six-pack or, you know, the chiseled jaw or the perfect hairline or the perfect skin, they are still confident. You know, you go to a beach or a pool, they're still guys of all shapes and sizes, not really giving a shit about what anyone else thinks. And honestly, that is amazing. Like, to have that level of confidence, firstly, it means that you know, they were brought up in an environment and with a mentality that made them just feel accepted, you know, however they look. No one was there to make them feel any different. Whereas for me, I was the opposite. I was made to feel different. So I have a real problem just doing the simple things in life. Like walking around with my top off, or walking around, you know, in a certain clothing that I really want to wear. Don't get me wrong, there are certain things that I really want to wear, but I just know I look horrible in them, or I don't look like how it's meant to look. I'll order something from, you know, an online shop or whatever, and I see the guy wearing it and I think, yeah, that looks good. And then I put it on once it arrives and it's like, right, where's the returns page? Because it just doesn't look how I thought it would, and I'm comparing myself to that person, the model online. So there's loads of reasons, but it all really stems to us comparing each other and feeling bad because of that, and that builds up, you know, insecurities, or it makes existing insecurities even worse. And I think as you go on in life, you know, I'm 38 now, it's not always just about the looks, it's about status, it's about, you know, who's got the nicer car or the nicer watch or the house. And yeah, there's obviously certain things you can't impact, like if you're in a certain type of career, if you're earning a certain amount of money, what are you going to do? I mean, you've got every means to change that. You know, if you don't want to be in that kind of corporate rat race and you want to try your luck with something like a business venture and it turns out successful, then great. You know, you've broken that mold, you've broken the barrier, you've started earning loads of money, you're entering that kind of level of status that you compare yourself to with others. But quite often it's not just about the money, it's about, you know, appearance, especially for me, you know, with young kids going to schools, you often see, you know, a whole new selection of men to compare yourself to, you know, new dads. You're all kind of eyeing up each other and sort of trying to establish yourself in you know, a bit of a hierarchy, like who's the alpha dad, who's the one that's sort of in charge of the group. And that is a real ball ache, to be honest, because it's like, why? Like, we're all different, we're all, you know, we're all from different backgrounds, we're all built different, we all look different. Why is there that level of sort of competition? Because if you live life like that, which is what I've quite often have done and I still am doing, it mentally drains you, because you're just constantly comparing yourself to someone else. You're constantly trying to, you know, enter that next level of what is, you know, what you think is success, whether that's the way you look or whether that's your kind of financial status, whatever it is. You're just constantly comparing yourself, and that, if you've got insecurities of any regard, it's almost like it just combines into one, and it just leaves you in a worse off position. So yeah, I'm trying to stop really, you know, thinking in that way or comparing myself to others in that way, because ultimately, you know, who gives a shit? Like, if you've got friends who treat you, or family that treat you respectfully, lovingly, they care for you, no matter what you look like or what your status is, that's what you need. You don't want to be hanging around with people who judge you. And quite often, and don't get me wrong, there are people that I look at and I think, oh yeah, they're a dickhead, they're going to judge me because they're obviously from some sort of next level status. You know, they're obviously in better shape, they've got a better job, they're a cool dad, or they're a cool guy that everyone wants to hang out with, and they're going to be looking at me, judging me because I'm not in that same kind of class or status as them. When the truth is, they probably are just a regular guy who just doesn't really care about anything. They don't even realise that others are looking at them in that way, and feeling insecure. So you can't necessarily judge a book by its cover, but on the flip side, there are guys like that who, they've been brought up, they've been molded to think everyone else is scum, and you've got to kind of almost bully them and make them feel like shit. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent a bit, but so I think that's those are kind of the main reasons why men feel insecure. It's just they feel inadequate. For me, I feel like I'm not good enough in many areas. I feel like I'm a failure in various things. And I think it's hard to break that, especially if you've been brought up with other insecurities where you've always felt different and you've always felt not quite enough. As you enter different stages of life and you experience those other insecurities, but they're in a different category, they all just kind of bulk into one, and you just always feel shit about yourself. But for those guys who just don't give a shit, hats off to you, honestly. For those who can just do whatever you want. If you want to live a certain way, you want to enjoy yourself when you go on holiday by just taking your top off or running around with your kids on the beach just free without worrying about what other people are looking at you and thinking. Honestly, I would love that. I would love to be that comfortable and confident in myself. And maybe I'll get there one day. And I'm seeing small improvements, and it might sound honestly ridiculous to other people hearing this, but I've started to kind of make a habit out of just wearing just t-shirts in the gym without wearing hoodies, and now I'm kind of consistently doing that. And some of you have seen the running videos where, let's be honest, it's not the most flattering angles when I'm running around wobbling about the place, but and obviously I'm in a relatively quiet, empty gym, so there's not really anyone else to look at. Whether I can build up the confidence to do that same sort of thing in a much more built up gym with other people, I don't know. I've not been in that position yet, but even just being able to do that myself, running in a t-shirt, to me that is a big step. And as I said, to a lot of people you might think, what are you on about? This is all just nonsense. Small steps will hopefully lead to bigger things, because that's basically where I want to get to. I've spent 38 years worrying way too much about what people think of me and what I think other people are thinking of me when they see me. What I judge myself daily, comparing myself to others. Like, I'm just so tired and sick of that. I just can't be asked to do that anymore. And I know you're probably saying, then don't care what other people think. Honestly, I wish I could just turn that off, because it's such a drain on my life, and it's impacting me in so many ways, mentally, physically, my judgment and kind of self-judgment as a dad, as a husband, as just a grown-up male. Just feel so inadequate sometimes when I know I've got so many things that others might look at me and think, I wish I was like you. I don't know what they are. But that's just how it is, right? If you're oblivious to these sort of things, you don't know what you have, you're not going to know. And to be honest, that's probably the best way, because I don't want to I don't want to, get a big head and think, oh well, everyone wants to be like me. Everyone thinks that I've got some sort of special characteristics that they want, because that's just almost entering a bit of a vicious cycle. Like, I don't want to be that arsehole to think I'm better than anyone else, because no one is better than anyone else. Like, we are all equal. We all look different for a reason. We're built different. So yeah, I think that's, it's a bit of just a brainstorm video, really. Like, I think others might have different views. If you do have different views, comment, let me know. Let me know what you think, why men are insecure. Is there any other reasons? I'm just speaking from my own example, but I think my own experiences are pretty similar to a lot of people out there. I know that other males experience these types of insecurities, and they're hard to avoid in many cases because we're so competitive as a species. We're always going to want to beat the other person, or most of us are. I certainly am. I'm really competitive. And I think when you fail, or when you just can't quite get there, or you feel, you know what, that guy's just way better in every sense, it honestly crushes you. But I'm here just to say, you're not alone. I'm in the same boat. We can hopefully break that together. We can break that mold, break that stigma, and just get on with our lives before we waste any more time worrying about shit that just doesn't really matter. So join the channel, subscribe, continue to support, because ultimately me helping you helps me. If I see more guys out there just feeling comfortable, just feeling relaxed, wearing whatever they want, enjoying themselves, that's going to help me to feel confident enough to do the same things. And you never know, there might be a day where I just feel, you know what, fuck it, top goes off, I just run around with the kids in the beach or the pool and just tick off that box that I've been longing to do for so long. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. I've been Punith, you've been watching The Mailman. Subscribe if you haven't done so. I need some more subscribers. I need to keep pushing this message out there. Like if you've enjoyed this content. I've got plenty of other videos just talking about different other aspects of this whole kind of male body image topic, and the impact it's had on me, the impact it can have on you, children, what things to watch out for. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what your experiences are. I need to kind of see more engagement. But until next time, thanks very much again. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you on the next one.